KPD, open up.
Shh. Keep your voice down. He'll hear you.
Diving into the cyberpunk world of Observer has been one of the most enjoyable and frustrating experiences in gaming in 2017. It marries some of the most compelling and interesting narrative elements that we've ever seen in cyberpunk, but ultimately fails, I think, because it's trying to appeal to a segment of gamers that are hurting gaming.
Okay, how about you shut the fuck up?
Well, that was certainly uncalled for.
Observer takes place in 2084 in an alternative and possibly true future wherein corporations have taken over most of the world, the masses are enamored by virtual reality, and we spend most of our times in slums with our minds attached to computer screens. There's prosthesis, transhumanism, and incredible narrative expectations underway. We play as Dan. That's right. Dan is an observer. Basically, he's a cop for the corporations that is allowed to use a little wire, connects it to a person's chip in their brain, and enters their mind, their dreams, their memories in a very esoteric and frenetic sort of way. We're introduced to this story because Dan's son reaches out to him after not speaking to him for a very long time, and we're investigating where he is and what's happening. This all takes place in one apartment building, and it's all from the perspective of Dan. Dan, of course, is played, little old Dan, is played by, I'm going to say the name incorrectly, Rutger Hauer, one of the most incredible European actors that this generation has seen. He's ridiculously famous for dozens of different roles, but one of the most impressive roles has to be his roles in Blade Runner, and that familiarity to this sort of trope and theme is put on display. He is so phenomenal at navigating what this seedy reality would be like. It's one of the highlights of an experience that can be a little dreary.
I got news for you, rough bucket. Forever is the privilege of the dead.
Ugh.
Now, right off the bat, Observer, I think, has an art style that is so pitch perfect. If we're dealing with a reality where most of humanity has succumbed to the evils of capitalism, there is a sense of grunge, a sense of bunkerism, wherein people have no other hope except to cling to reality, to non-reality rather, and the VR that's in it. In Observer, you see things that aren't clear and smooth. Everything is slightly broken and grungy and ramshackled together to create a reality which the poor would realistically have to live in. If we are continuing on this technological road, there's members of the population that would have to live like this and still keep up. So it's very interesting to see how this game decided to navigate with these sort of themes. Now, in Observer, playing as Dan, you have an opportunity to essentially use different detective modes. There's different implants that are within you, and each of these modes ties into that impeccable art style that's texturized, that feels gritty, that feels like you're kind of moving through gravy as you're looking through the world. Everything that you interact with and play with, and even the people you talk to, seem real on a level that you don't normally get for a budget game. Not only is the art direction something very impressive, but the methodology for building narrative is something that I really, really love. They focus a lot on emergent narrative, so little pieces of the story being found around you. One of the main ways you interact with the world are through these kind of looking glass devices, the HoloLens things, wherein you talk to the people who are in lockdown in this apartment, each of them speaking to the mores and woes of this different sort of reality. There's another sense of narrative there in transhumanism. You're looking through the looking glass of this reality. It's layered, it's interesting. The world itself is very, very compelling. There's factions within it considered the Immaculates that want to have no trace of any mods or technology within them, and other ones that are essentially robots trying to find their humanity. It's done subtly and smoothly, and I was so entertained. And then the main function of an observer came into play. Now, when you do jack in to the dreams of different people in this world, it becomes this broken jump scare sort of extended cacophony of just annoying gameplay resolves. I don't want to play a game anymore where I walk into a room and I have to keep walking as that room repeats itself. And this happens in Observer again and again and again. Early on, this only happens 3 or 4 times. They're very protracted. They last up to 25 minutes. But then I can get back to living in this world, which is so compelling and alive. Unfortunately, near the end of the game, this conceit gets doubled down. Dan starts to lose a bit of his mind, which is expected as his tech starts to break. And this is where the game for me really fell apart. I think this game, Observer, had the capacity to be a title that had an art direction that was unique, a world that was so compelling, almost like a Witcher, what I expected from CD Projekt Red, what they're going to make with their new cyberpunk game. Everything felt real and earned and interesting, but also hemmed in. You know, we weren't trying to save the world. We're just in this one apartment trying to essentially figure out what's happening today. All of that was great. And then we had to spend a lot of time in the game avoiding jump scares. And I think this is because the developers or the gaming community within and of itself is gearing towards the streaming community. So the big streamers can play this game, can laugh, can have the scares, can get an audience excited for it. But I assure you, if you have any interest in exciting narratives or character development or just living in a world that can tell emergent storytelling well, these sequences are pretentious and overwrought and just really take away from the experience. It is such a shame because I fell in love with this game and what it brings, and I still went to the end because you wanted to figure out the mystery. But ultimately, I think the folks that develop this title should go to another major publisher, maybe seek additional funding, take this the Deus Ex route, because we're not going to have a game like this in a while, and in many ways, it's very superior to what Deus Ex tried to accomplish, dealing with the mores of transhumanism and what happens to just the visual style is so great and so compelling that in and of itself would make it extend if this was a real AAA title. Continue to the end to hear Dan's story, incredible acting, incredible world, but one of the major gameplay conceits that the game makes you go through again and again is just sort of broken and simplified. It's a real shame because Observer had the capacity to be one of the best games of the year. This is a game that struggles with the realities of our capitalistic world and our addiction to technology and provides very interesting solutions and additional problems to this reality. Ironic that a game that wants to struggle with the headier issues of tech isn't willing to take a step forward and do something that is interesting and kind of clings to that sort of streaming jump scare base. If that's the game you're looking for, then that's great. Observer, unfortunately, I cannot recommend. It's a good game to watch, though, and experience this visual fidelity.